August 14th is coming, and with it, something truly historic for Social Security. This date marks a milestone that very few programs in our country can claim, the 90th birthday of Social Security. Back in 1935, on August 14th, President Franklin D. Roosevelt signed the Social Security Act into law. It was born in the depths of the Great Depression, when millions of Americans were struggling to survive, and it was designed to provide a measure of financial security to older Americans, people with disabilities, and survivors of deceased workers. Now, 9 decades later, it remains one of the largest and most impactful programs in the United States. This year alone, Social Security will send out over $1.5 trillion in benefits, with more than $120 billion going out the door every single month to over 73 million beneficiaries. Those are staggering numbers, and they illustrate just how enormous the scope of this program truly is. When you think about it, that's not just a government statistic, those are real people. Each month, that money lands in the accounts of retirees who rely on it to pay for housing, groceries, medicine, and the basic necessities of life. It supports widows, widowers, and children who have lost a parent. It sustains people who can no longer work due to disability. It's a lifeline woven into the fabric of American society, touching nearly every family at some point. And yet, despite this track record, there is an undercurrent of anxiety that never seems to go away. Every year, without fail, the conversation rises again: is Social Security running out of money? Will it still be here in 10 years, 20 years, or when younger workers retire? You've probably heard these doubts for decades. Many people recall hearing as far back as the 1980s and 1990s that the program wouldn't survive much longer. And yet here it is. 90 years strong. Part of that ongoing worry comes from the annual report of the Social Security Board of Trustees. It's a detailed, technical document, but the media always boils it down to a scary headline: Social Security's trust funds will run out by 2033 or 2034 unless changes are made. This year's report again projected that the Old Age and Survivors Insurance Trust Fund, which pays retirement and survivor benefits, will be depleted in about 9 years. If nothing changes, the program would then rely entirely on incoming payroll taxes, which would cover roughly 77% of promised benefits. It's a sobering figure, and one that's been repeated in various forms for decades. But it's also important to keep it in perspective. In its entire history, Social Security has never missed a scheduled payment to beneficiaries. Not during recessions, not during wars, not during government shutdowns. Even when politics are messy, the checks still arrive. That's why, despite the dire warnings, many experts believe the program isn't going anywhere. Lawmakers have always found a way to patch the system before real insolvency hits. The truth is, Social Security is too important and too popular to simply disappear. The debate is not about whether it will continue, but how to keep it solvent for future generations. There are really only a handful of options on the table, and none of them are new. One option is to raise payroll taxes, either across the board or on higher earners. Another is to gradually raise the full retirement age, pushing back when people can claim full benefits. Some propose adjusting the benefit formula or changing cost of living adjustments. Others suggest tapping into general federal revenues or creating new funding streams. But here's the political reality: major reforms are hard to achieve because they involve trade-offs, and no politician wants to be remembered as the one who cut benefits or raised taxes. If history is a guide, it's far more likely that Congress will wait until the 11th hour before acting. That's just how Washington tends to work. As the projected depletion date gets closer, the pressure will mount, the headlines will get louder, and eventually a deal will be struck. That deal might look something like a one-time cash infusion, perhaps even trillions of dollars from the federal government into Social Security's trust funds. In an age of digital money, that could simply mean creating numbers on a screen and transferring them into the program's accounts. Economists debate the long-term effects of such a move, but in the short term, it would extend Social Security's solvency for decades. We've seen similar approaches before, though on smaller scales, with other federal programs. Of course, there's another possibility. In the more distant future, say 25 to 35 years from now, the program could evolve into something new entirely. Some futurists and policy thinkers envision replacing Social Security with a form of universal basic income, a guaranteed payment to all adults regardless of work history. The idea is that this would be simpler to administer and could adapt to an economy where automation and technology reduce the number of traditional jobs. Whether that happens or not is anyone's guess, but it's worth noting that the seeds of such ideas are already being discussed in policy circles. Still, for now, Social Security remains the bedrock of retirement income for tens of millions of Americans. The 90th anniversary is more than just a date on the calendar. It's a reminder of what can be achieved when the country commits to a shared goal. In 1935, the United States was in crisis, and Social Security was a bold, untested idea. Critics at the time claimed it would bankrupt the nation or collapse under its own weight. Supporters argued it was a moral necessity, a promise that after a lifetime of work, people would not be left to live out their years in poverty. 9 decades later, it's clear which side history favored. The program is not perfect, far from it, but it has lifted millions of seniors out of poverty, provided stability to families after the loss of a breadwinner, and given peace of mind to people who know they have at least a basic income in old age. And yet, complacency is dangerous. Just because the program has endured for 90 years doesn't mean it can coast forever. The demographics that support Social Security are changing. When it began, there were far more workers paying into the system for each retiree drawing benefits. Today, that ratio is shrinking as the baby boomer generation retires and people live longer. Medical advances mean people are collecting benefits for more years than previous generations. At the same time, birth rates have fallen, meaning fewer new workers are entering the system. This combination puts financial strain on the trust funds. It's not a sudden collapse, it's more like a slow leak. Without adjustments, the math eventually stops working. One of the challenges in fixing Social Security is the sheer scale of the program. With over 73 million people receiving benefits, even small changes can have massive ripple effects. For example, raising the retirement age by just 1 year could save billions, but it could also disproportionately hurt people in physically demanding jobs who can't keep working into their late 60s. Increasing payroll taxes could generate significant revenue, but it would also take more out of workers' paychecks at a time when many are already struggling with inflation and the rising cost of living. Cutting benefits is politically toxic, and for good reason. Millions of retirees depend on every dollar they receive. That's why many observers believe the eventual solution will be a blend of measures, carefully balanced to spread the impact. In the meantime, the debate will continue. Every time the trustees' report is released, the conversation will flare up. Politicians will use the issue to rally their bases, advocacy groups will push for their preferred solutions, and media outlets will amplify the sense of urgency. But behind the noise, Social Security will keep doing what it has done for 90 years, sending out checks, month after month, to the people who rely on them. That reliability is one of the program's greatest strengths. Even when confidence in government is low, most Americans trust that Social Security benefits will arrive on time. That trust is built on nearly a century of consistent payments, through every imaginable economic and political storm. So as August 14th approaches, it's worth taking a moment to reflect. 90 years ago, Social Security was an experiment. Today, it's a pillar of American life. Its future will depend on the choices we make in the next decade, but its past is a testament to what's possible when a nation commits to caring for its most vulnerable members. The story of Social Security is not just about policy and finance, it's about people. It's about the grandmother who can afford her medication because of her monthly check, the widower who can keep his home after losing his spouse, the worker who becomes disabled and doesn't have to face poverty on top of illness. These are the lives shaped by the program's existence. No one knows exactly what Social Security will look like on its 100th birthday. Maybe it will be largely the same, sustained by a last-minute infusion of funds or a carefully crafted reform package. Maybe it will be transformed into something new, adapted to the realities of a digital economy. But whatever form it takes, the principle at its core that after years of work, people deserve security in old age is unlikely to disappear. That's the promise that has endured for 90 years, and it's the promise that will guide whatever comes next. And so, on this anniversary, the message is clear: despite the rumors, despite the predictions of collapse, Social Security is still here. It has weathered wars, recessions, political stalemates, and demographic shifts. It has adapted before, and it can adapt again. But that will require political will, public engagement, and a willingness to face uncomfortable choices. The conversation about Social Security's future is not just for policymakers in Washington, it's for everyone who pays into the system, everyone who hopes to collect benefits someday, and everyone who cares about the economic stability of our society. The 90th birthday of Social Security is a celebration, but it's also a reminder. A reminder that this program belongs to all of us, and its survival depends on what we choose to do next.